Saturday morning sunshine warmed the neighborhood park. Daniel Carter, 35, watched his 6-year-old daughter Lily on the swings when he noticed two small twin girls cornered by a 12-year-old boy near the playground. The boy was pulling their matching braids and laughing as they cried. Daniel strode over immediately, his firm voice stopping the bully mid-taunt. "That's enough, son. Leave them alone." The boy scurried away. A woman in a cream business suit rushed over, breathless. "I'm their mother. Thank you." Their eyes met with unexpected intensity. Daniel nodded. Just doing what's right. Neither knew their pasts held a devastating secret. Daniel Carter had once been Sterling Aerospace's most brilliant propulsion engineer, his innovative safety protocols earning recognition throughout the aviation industry. 6 years had passed since he'd walked away from that prestigious career. Abandoning everything the morning after burying his wife Sophia, the official investigation into the test flight crash that killed her had been swift, conclusive, and quietly buried beneath layers of corporate bureaucracy and legal settlements. They called it pilot error, combined with mechanical failure, an unfortunate accident that couldn't have been prevented. Daniel knew better, had seen the rushed approval signatures, the ignored safety warnings, but knowing and proving were different battles entirely, and he had a daughter to raise alone. Now he worked as an equipment maintenance engineer for a smaller manufacturing company, trading prestige and 6-figure salaries for peace of mind and flexible hours. His entire world revolved around Lily braiding her hair each morning with practiced fingers, packing lunches with handwritten notes that made her giggle during recess, attending every school play and parent-teacher conference with devoted attention. He had become both mother and father, filling their modest 2-story home with enough love to mask the absence that still echoed in its corners during quiet moments. Lily had inherited her mother's deep brown eyes and curious spirit, and every time she smiled, Daniel saw Sophia's soul living on through their daughter. The woman from the park haunted his thoughts that evening as he prepared dinner. Something about her seemed inexplicably familiar. Perhaps the determined set of her jaw, or the way she held herself with practiced authority, despite the momentary panic in her eyes when she'd seen her daughters in distress. He couldn't place where he might have seen her before, but the feeling persisted like an itch he couldn't scratch. Ava Blake had built walls around herself that few dared to scale, each brick mortared with ambition and sealed with cold efficiency. At 34, she commanded Sterling Aerospace with the kind of calculated precision that made board members nervous and competitors wary of her next move. She had climbed the corporate ladder with singular focus, each rung a carefully orchestrated step away from the poverty of her childhood in rural Kentucky. Being a single mother to twin daughters, Emma and Ella hadn't softened her public persona. If anything, motherhood had sharpened her edge. She couldn't afford weakness, not when she carried secrets that could destroy everything she'd built over the past 6 years. The twins were her only vulnerability, the single crack in her otherwise impenetrable armor. She'd never told them about their father, a brief relationship with a marketing executive that had ended before she discovered she was pregnant. The girls had learned not to ask about him, sensing the pain that flickered across their mother's usually composed face whenever the subject arose. Ava provided them with everything money could buy: private tutors who came to the house, piano lessons with the city's best instructor, enrollment at the most exclusive preparatory school. But she knew in her heart she couldn't purchase what they needed most: a complete family with a father figure. That Saturday night, as she tucked Emma and Ella into their matching beds, they couldn't stop talking about the man who had saved them from the mean boy. He was like a superhero. "Mommy," Ella whispered, her small hand clutching her mother's. "And he had a daughter just like us, with braids and everything." Ava smoothed their hair, her mind involuntarily drifting to those kind green eyes that had looked at her without the usual calculation or recognition, only genuine concern. She didn't recognize him then, but something deep in her chest had tightened when their hands briefly touched as he helped steady Emma. Later in her home office, Ava pulled up old employee files from Sterling Aerospace's database, a habit she'd developed whenever someone felt familiar but unplaceable. When Daniel Carter's personnel photograph appeared on her screen, Her blood turned to ice in her veins. She remembered him now, the brilliant engineer who had designed revolutionary safety protocols that could have transformed aviation standards. He'd left abruptly 6 years ago, just days after the TR-7 incident. Her fingers trembled as she closed the laptop. Some connections were better left unmade. Some truths better left buried. But fate rarely respected such preferences. The universe seemed determined to entangle their lives. The following Saturday, at the same park, their daughters found each other like magnets drawn together by invisible force. Lily had been reading under a sprawling oak tree when Emma and Ella approached, shy but determined to make friends. Within minutes, the three girls were inseparable, creating elaborate games that only 6-year-olds could understand, their laughter mixing like music. Daniel and Ava watched from separate benches, occasionally catching each other's eyes with the resigned smiles of parents whose children had made their social choices. "I suppose we should properly introduce ourselves," Daniel said, walking over with an extended hand and an easy smile. "Daniel Carter. And that whirlwind over there is my daughter Lily." "Ava Blake," she replied, her professional mask sliding automatically into place even as she shook his warm hand. "Emma and Ella. Though I can never predict which tornado will strike first on any given day." They talked while their daughters played, conversation flowing with surprising naturalness. Daniel spoke about Lily's obsession with astronomy, how she insisted on checking for stars even on cloudy nights, how she'd memorized all the constellations visible from their latitude. Ava found herself genuinely laughing, really laughing for the first time in months, as she described the twins' latest architectural attempt to build a fort that had somehow involved every pillow, blanket, and piece of furniture in their house, including somehow dismantling part of the dining room table. "You're different from what I expected," Daniel said suddenly, then caught himself with slight embarrassment. "I mean, from that first day, you seemed so cold, controlled, unapproachable," Ava supplied with a bitter smile playing at her lips. "Occupational hazard, I'm afraid. Running a major company doesn't leave much room for warmth or vulnerability." "Sterling Aerospace," Daniel said quietly, and Ava's breath caught in her throat. "I know the company well. Used to work there, actually, years ago." The moment stretched between them like a taut wire, heavy with unspoken questions and carefully buried history. Ava wanted to run, to grab her daughters, and never return to this park where fate seemed determined to unravel her carefully constructed life. But Emma chose that precise moment to race over, grabbing her mother's hand with sticky fingers. "Mommy, can Lily come to our house for a play date tomorrow? Please? We want to show her our telescope." Looking at her daughter's hopeful face, then at Daniel's kind eyes that held no recognition of her role in his tragedy, Ava made a decision that would change everything irrevocably. "Of course, sweetheart. If her father agrees to it." Daniel nodded, smiling at the girl's excitement. "I think that sounds wonderful. What time should we come over?" Weeks transformed into months, autumn leaves giving way to winter snow, and the two families grew closer with each passing day. Daniel found himself eagerly anticipating their park meetings, looking forward to the way Ava's professional facade would crack when one of the girls told a particularly silly joke. She had started wearing her hair down on weekends, he noticed. Soft waves replacing the severe bun, and casual clothes that made her look younger, more approachable, more human. For Ava, Daniel represented something she'd never allowed herself to want: genuine connection without agenda or calculation. He didn't care about her money, her position, or her corporate influence. He laughed at her terrible puns, helped her when Emma skinned her knee, taught all three girls to throw a proper football spiral, and never pressed when she grew quiet and distant, lost in thoughts she couldn't share. He was patient in a way that both comforted and terrified her. The girls had unilaterally decided they were sisters. No discussion needed or vote taken. They insisted on matching outfits when the families went on outings together to the zoo, where Daniel somehow carried all three girls on his shoulders simultaneously, to the beach, where Ava taught Lily to build sandcastles with architectural precision and proper foundation engineering. to the local autumn fair, where they shared cotton candy, and Daniel won stuffed animals for each girl at the ring toss game. I haven't seen Lily this happy since. Daniel paused one evening in November, watching the girls chase fireflies in Ava's expansive backyard. They were alone on the porch, glasses of wine untouched beside them, the air crisp with approaching winter. Since your wife, Ava, finished softly, her voice barely above a whisper. She knew about Sophia, had read the obituary multiple times, studied the investigation report, had memorized every detail of the tragedy she'd helped create without fully understanding the consequences. She would have loved this, Daniel said, his voice thick with emotion he rarely allowed himself to feel, seeing Lily with sisters. Sophia always wanted more children, wanted a big family. Ava's hand found his in the darkness, squeezing gently with an understanding born of shared loneliness. The weight of her secret pressed against her chest like a physical thing, but she pushed it down into the locked box where she kept all her guilt. She had learned to live with that weight, to compartmentalize it into something manageable that she only opened in the darkest hours of sleepless nights. But sitting here with Daniel, feeling the warmth of his calloused hand, watching their daughters play the box, was cracking open despite her best efforts. Ava, Daniel turned to her, his eyes serious in the porch light. I need to tell you something important. These past few months, I thought I was done with feeling anything beyond love for Lily. After Sophia died, I shut that part of myself down completely. But you've changed that. You and the girls have brought something back to life in me that I thought was gone forever. She should have stopped him. Should have pulled away, made an excuse. Ended this before it went any further down a path that could only lead to devastation. Instead, she leaned closer, drawn by a force stronger than guilt or fear or self-preservation. When he kissed her, gentle and uncertain, she kissed him back with 6 years of loneliness and longing, tasting redemption and damnation in equal measure. The relationship deepened as autumn turned to winter. Daniel helped Ava decorate her house for Christmas. The first time she'd bothered with a tree since the twins were toddlers. Ava taught Daniel how to French braid hair properly, sitting patiently while he practiced on her before attempting Lily's thick locks. They spent Thanksgiving together, creating new traditions, each girl saying 3 things they were grateful for. Daniel's terrible turkey jokes that made everyone groan, Ava's surprisingly perfect pumpkin pie that became legendary in their small circle. On New Year's Eve, with the girls asleep upstairs after fighting to stay awake until midnight, Daniel and Ava stood on her balcony, watching fireworks paint the sky in brilliant colors. I love you, he said simply, the words carrying the weight of a man who had thought he'd never say them again to anyone but his daughter. Ava turned away, tears streaming down her face in hot trails. Daniel, there's something I need to tell you. I know you have a past, he interrupted gently, pulling her close. We both do. But I don't care about before. I only care about now. About the future we could build together. The 6 of us. 6? Ava's voice broke on the single word. I want to adopt Emma and Ella, Daniel said, his voice steady with conviction. If you'll have me. If you'll marry me. I want to be their father officially. And I want you to be Lily's mother. We could be a real family, not just 2 broken halves pretending to be whole. The proposal hung between them like the fireworks, beautiful, explosive, temporary. Ava said yes because saying no would have required explanations she couldn't give without destroying everything. She said yes because she loved him with a desperate intensity that frightened her with its power. She said yes knowing that she was building a future on a foundation of lies that would eventually, inevitably crumble into dust. Spring arrived with unusual warmth that year. Crocuses pushing through the last snow in defiant celebration. Daniel had been cleaning out the garage, making room for Ava and the twins' belongings as they prepared to merge their households when he found the box. Old files from Sterling Aerospace, documents he'd saved, thinking one day he might pursue the truth about Sophia's death when Lily was older. He almost threw them away. What good would dwelling on the past do now? But something Perhaps Sophia's spirit or simple curiosity made him open just one folder. The technical approval signature jumped out at him like a physical blow to the chest. Ava Blake, Senior Technical Director. The date was 3 days before the fatal test flight. He recognized the systems. She'd approved the same navigation protocols he'd flagged as incomplete, requiring at least 3 more months of testing and refinement. His hands shook as he found more documents, more signatures. A clear pattern of rushed approvals to meet quarterly projections and bonus targets. Daniel called Marcus, his old colleague who had worked in quality assurance and still kept in touch occasionally. "I need to know about the TR-7 crash," he said without preamble, his voice rough. "Who pushed the approvals through despite the safety concerns?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment, the silence heavy with reluctance. "Why are you digging this up now, Daniel? It's been 6 years. You've moved on. Please, Marcus, I need to know the truth." It was Blake. Ava Blake. She was gunning for the CEO position. Needed that project to succeed to secure the board's vote. She overrode 3 safety holds. Dan. We tried to stop it, but she had the authority. After the crash, the company buried everything, made it go away quietly. She became CEO 2 months later, right on schedule. The phone slipped from Daniel's numb fingers, clattering on the concrete floor. In the distance, he could hear Lily and the twins playing in the backyard, their laughter carrying on the spring breeze like mockery. Ava's voice joined them, calling them in for lunch with maternal warmth. The same voice that had whispered, "I love you" last night. The same hands that had signed his wife's death warrant. Daniel moved through the rest of the day in a dissociative haze. At dinner, he watched Ava cut Emma's meat, wipe Ella's face, help Lily with her fractions homework. She was a good mother, attentive, and loving, and patient. But she was also the reason Lily didn't have her own mother, the reason he'd spent 6 years as a widower, the reason his daughter cried on Mother's Day. That night, after the girls were asleep, Daniel placed the folder on the kitchen table with deliberate precision. "We need to talk." Ava saw the Sterling Aerospace logo, and her face went white as bone. She sank into a chair like a marionette with cut strings, her hands folded in her lap like a child awaiting inevitable punishment. "You knew," Daniel said. His voice, deadly quiet, controlled fury beneath the surface. "This whole time, you knew who I was, what you'd done to us." "Daniel, please let me explain. You killed her." The words exploded from him, months of happiness shattering in an instant. "You signed off on those systems knowing they weren't ready. You killed Sophia for a promotion, for money, for power. And then you made me fall in love with you? You let me bring you into my daughter's life? I didn't know about you and Lily when we met," Ava whispered, tears streaming down her face in rivers. "That day at the park was pure coincidence. But after I realized who you were, I tried to stay away. I tried, but the girls had already bonded and, don't you dare blame our daughters for your lies." "I'm not. I'm saying I fell in love with you despite knowing I had no right to. Every day I wanted to tell you. But every day, I became more of a coward because I couldn't bear to lose you all. I couldn't bear to see the love in your eyes turn to hatred." Daniel laughed bitterly, the sound sharp as broken glass. "Well, congratulations. You've lost us anyway. Mission accomplished." Ava crumbled then, 6 years of carefully constructed walls collapsing in devastating waves. "I think about her every single day." She sobbed, her body shaking. "Your wife. I read her obituary so many times I memorized it. Teacher at Riverside Elementary. Volunteer at the Literacy Center. Mother to Lily Grace. I know she taught 2nd grade. That she loved monarch butterflies. That she was learning to play guitar for the children's music program she wanted to start. I know everything about the life I stole from her, from you, from Lily. Then why?" Daniel's voice broke, raw pain replacing anger. "Why did you do it?" "Because I was ambitious and stupid and desperate. and believed the engineers who said the risk was minimal, statistically insignificant, because I thought making my daughters proud meant being powerful and successful and wealthy, because I didn't understand that one signature could destroy so many lives irrevocably. She looked up at him with ravaged eyes. I've been in prison since that day, Daniel. A prison of my own making, but prison nonetheless. Every happy moment we've shared has been stolen, and I knew it. You're going to be in a real prison soon enough, Daniel said coldly. I'm going to the authorities. The truth needs to come out, finally. I know, Ava said simply, her voice hollow. I've been preparing for this day for 6 years. My lawyers have everything ready. I won't fight it. Daniel stared at her, thrown by her easy acceptance. What about Emma and Ella? They have no one else, Ava whispered brokenly. Their father isn't in the picture. My parents are dead. They'll go into foster care, probably be separated. But that's what I deserve, isn't it? To lose everything, just like you did. The next morning, Daniel stood at his window watching Lily teach the twins a complicated hand-clapping game. They were still in their pajamas, hair messy from sleep, faces bright with innocence. In a few hours, their world would shatter just like his had 6 years ago. But they were children. They didn't choose their mother any more than Lily had chosen to lose hers. When Ava turned herself in that afternoon, the media explosion was immediate and devastating. Sterling Aerospace CEO admits to fatal cover-up. The details were sensational. A rushed approval, a deadly crash, 6 years of deception. The company's stock plummeted within hours. The board demanded immediate resignations. Federal investigators descended like vultures on carrion. Through it all, Daniel found himself in the surreal position of caring for Emma and Ella, while their mother sat in federal custody awaiting trial. The twins didn't understand why Mommy couldn't come home, why reporters kept trying to talk to them, why some of their friends weren't allowed to play with them anymore. Is Mommy bad? Ella asked one night, curled against Daniel's side while he read them a bedtime story. Your mommy made a mistake, Daniel said carefully, his heart breaking for these innocent children. A very big mistake that hurt people. But that doesn't mean she doesn't love you with all her heart. Do you hate her? Emma asked, her voice small and frightened. Daniel was quiet for a long moment, wrestling with his own demons. I'm very angry with her, he finally said. But hate is a heavy thing to carry, and I'm trying to put it down. The trial lasted 3 excruciating weeks. Ava pled guilty to all charges: criminal negligence, involuntary manslaughter, falsifying technical documents, conspiracy to obstruct justice. She stood before the court in a simple black suit, her voice steady as she detailed every decision, every cover-up, every lie with unflinching honesty. When Daniel took the stand, the prosecutor asked him to describe his wife, the life they'd built, the daughter left motherless. His testimony was factual, controlled, until the prosecutor showed a picture of Sophia holding baby Lily at her first birthday party. She was everything, Daniel said, his voice finally breaking. She made our house a home. She sang Lily to sleep every night, the same song her mother had sung to her, "You are my sunshine." She volunteered at the literacy center, teaching adults to read with infinite patience. She was learning to play guitar because she wanted to start a children's music group at the library. She had so many plans, so much life left to live. She was supposed to watch Lily grow up, go to her graduation, her wedding. She was supposed to grow old with me. The prosecutor nodded sympathetically. And what would you like to see happen to the defendant? Daniel looked at Ava then, seeing not the powerful CEO but the broken woman who had sung those same nighttime songs to Emma and Ella, who had taught them to read, who had so many plans that would never come to fruition. I want justice, he said finally. But I also have to think about 3 little girls who need stability, who need love, who didn't ask for any of this. The defendant's daughters have no other family. If she agrees, I'm willing to take temporary custody of them while she serves her sentence. The courtroom erupted in shocked whispers. The judge called for order, banging his gavel repeatedly. Ava's lawyer leaned over to whisper urgently in her ear, but she was staring at Daniel with an expression of profound disbelief and overwhelming gratitude. "Miss Blake," the judge addressed her sternly, "Mr. Carter is offering to care for your children despite the tremendous wrong you've done to him. Do you agree to this arrangement?" Ava stood slowly on unsteady legs. "Your Honor, Mr. Carter has every reason to hate me, to want me to suffer as he has suffered, that he would offer to care for my daughters despite what I've done to him and his family. Yes, I agree. And I ask only that he love them as he loves his own daughter." The judge sentenced Ava to 12 years in federal prison, with the possibility of parole in 7 for good behavior. As the bailiffs led her away in shackles, she turned to look at Daniel one last time. "Thank you," she mouthed silently, tears streaming down her face. Daniel nodded once, then turned to face his new reality, single father to 3 girls, bound together by tragedy and chance. The first months were the hardest trial Daniel had faced since losing Sophia. Emma and Ella cried themselves to sleep most nights, calling for their mother in heartbreaking wails. Lily, trying desperately to be helpful, would climb into their bed and hold them, but sometimes she cried too, confused by the tsunami of sadness that had invaded their previously happy home. Daniel survived on coffee and sheer determination, learning to braid 2 more heads of hair, pack 2 more lunches, attend 2 more sets of parent-teacher conferences, navigate 2 more sets of emotional needs. He never spoke badly of Ava in front of the girls, no matter how much anger still burned in his chest. When they asked about her, he told them she was somewhere she needed to be, that she loved them very much, that she would come back when she could. He helped them write letters to her every week, carefully printing their words when their small hands grew tired, adding drawings and photographs from their daily lives. The letters Ava sent back were always addressed to all 3 girls equally. She told them stories about a family of birds that lived outside her window, about the books she was reading in the prison library, about how much she missed them all. She always ended the same way: be good for each other. Be kind. Tell the truth. I love you to the moon and back. Slowly, painfully, a routine emerged from the chaos. Breakfast at 7, always chaos with spilled juice and arguments over cereal. School drop-off at 8:15, Emma and Ella holding Lily's hands protectively. Work for Daniel while the girls were at school. Grateful his employer understood his situation and allowed flexibility. Pick up at 3, homework at the kitchen table, with Daniel patiently explaining math concepts 3 times over. Dinner at 6, with each girl taking turns choosing the menu. Bedtime stories for all 3, even though Lily claimed she was too old, secretly loving the tradition. Collapse on the couch at 9, wondering how single parents survived this marathon. Wake up and do it again. But there were moments of unexpected grace, too. The first time Emma called him Dad by accident, then blushed furiously. And he told her it was okay, she could call him whatever felt right. Ella's pride when she learned to ride a bike without training wheels, Daniel running beside her, Lily teaching the twins constellation names in the backyard, patient as her father. Saturday pancakes became sacred tradition, each girl getting to add 1 ingredient, resulting in combinations that ranged from delicious to decidedly experimental. Sunday afternoons at the park where it all began, the girls playing while Daniel sat on the bench and watched, sometimes remembering Sophia, sometimes remembering Ava, mostly just grateful for the present moment. The community, initially scandalized by the unconventional arrangement, gradually came to accept and even admire it. Daniel Carter, the man raising his wife's killer's children, it had a poetic justice to it that appealed to people's sense of drama and redemption. Donations appeared on their doorstep clothes the twins had outgrown. Casseroles on particularly hard days. Offers to babysit when Daniel looked especially exhausted. 2 years passed in a blur of school plays, soccer games, and birthday parties. Then 3. Then 4. The twins were 10 now, Lily almost 11. They'd grown tall and confident, Emma showing Ava's determination and strategic mind. Ella her attention to detail and artistic eye. Lily had become the protective older sister, fierce in defense of her twins as she called them, teaching them her mother's songs. On a rainy Saturday morning 4 years into Ava's sentence, Daniel gathered all 3 girls in the living room for a family meeting. "I have something important to ask you all," he said seriously. The prison called. "Your mom is allowed visitors now, family visitors. It's been 4 years. Do you want to see her?" The twins looked at each other with that telepathic communication unique to twins, then at Lily, then back at Daniel. "All of us?" Emma asked quietly, her voice hopeful, but uncertain. "All of us," Daniel confirmed. "If you want to go." "Do you want to go?" Ella asked him. Always the most perceptive of the 3. Daniel was quiet for a moment, wrestling with his own complicated emotions. "I think it's important for you to see her. As for me, I think it's time." The Federal Women's Facility was 2 hours away through rural countryside. The girls were quiet in the car, dressed in their best clothes as if for church or a school performance. Daniel had prepared them for what to expect: the security, the rules, the way their mother might look different. He hadn't prepared himself for the way his chest would tighten when he saw her through the reinforced glass. Ava had lost significant weight, her face thinner, her hair shorter and streaked with premature gray. But when she saw them through the reinforced glass, her whole being lit up with a joy that transformed her features. The girls ran to the window, pressing their hands against it desperately. Ava did the same from her side, trying to touch them through the barrier. "My babies," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Look how big you've gotten. Look how beautiful you are." They talked for the full hour aloud, the girls telling her about school, friends, their soccer teams, their art projects. Lily showed her a report card. All A's. Emma had lost a tooth. Ella had learned to play piano. Normal childhood things that Ava had missed. Drinking in every word, like water in the desert. "Mom," Emma said as their time ran short, "don't cry anymore. We're okay. Daniel takes good care of us." Ava's eyes moved to Daniel, who had stayed silent throughout the visit. "I know he does, baby. He's a good man, the best man." "I'm still angry," Daniel said suddenly, his first words to her in 4 years. "I'll probably always be angry, but I want you to know that they're loved, they're safe, they're happy. I keep my promises." "I know," Ava whispered. "The guards? They tell me sometimes. About the Father's Day cards the girls make you. About the science fair project you helped Emma with. About how you drove 5 hours to find the specific doll Ella wanted for her birthday. You're their father now, in every way that matters. They need their mother too," Daniel said quietly. "We'll come once a month. All of us." The visits became routine, woven into the fabric of their unusual family life. Once a month, they would make the drive. The girls would chatter excitedly, planning what to tell their mother. Daniel would listen to audiobooks, trying to quiet his conflicted emotions. Each visit grew a little easier, the initial awkwardness fading into something resembling normalcy. 3 more years passed. The girls were teenagers now, 13 and almost 14, navigating the complexities of middle school with its dramas and heartbreaks. They still shared a room by choice, still held hands when they were nervous, still crawled into Daniel's bed during thunderstorms. On the 7th anniversary of Sophia's death, Daniel stood at her grave with all 3 girls. They'd brought butterflies to release, monarchs that Sophia had loved. As the orange wings dispersed into the spring sky, Lily spoke. "I remember her a little," she said softly. "She smelled like vanilla, and she sang off-key, but with her whole heart. She would have loved Emma and Ella. She would have understood why you kept them, Dad." Daniel pulled all 3 girls close. "Yeah," he said softly. "She would have." That evening, a letter arrived from Ava's lawyer. She had been approved for early release, time reduced for good behavior, and the prison education programs she'd completed. She would be out in 6 months. Daniel sat at the kitchen table long after the girls had gone to bed, staring at the letter. 7 years would have passed since that day in the park by the time of her release. The girls would be 14, old enough to choose where they wanted to live, old enough to understand the complexities of forgiveness and family. When he told the girls about Ava's early release, their reactions were mixed. Emma was thrilled, already planning her mother's homecoming. Ella was anxious, worried about how everything would change. Lily was protective, concerned about Daniel. "What do you want?" she asked him one evening as they did dishes together. "I want you all to be happy," Daniel said honestly. "That's all I've ever wanted." "That's not an answer, Dad." Daniel smiled at his wise daughter. "I don't know what I want, but I know what's right. Your mom," he still called Ava their mom to all 3 girls, "she's paid for what she did. She deserves a chance to rebuild her life, to be a mother again." The day of Ava's release came on a bright October morning. Daniel drove alone to pick her up, the girls waiting at home. Ava walked out carrying a small bag, wearing clothes that hung loose on her thin frame. She stopped when she saw Daniel by the car, uncertainty written across her face. "Thank you," she said simply. "For coming. For everything." "The girls are waiting," Daniel replied, opening the passenger door for her. They drove in silence for a while, the weight of 7 years sitting between them. Finally, Ava spoke. "I've thought about this day every moment for 7 years. What I would say to you, how I could possibly make amends. But there are no words, are there? No apology that could ever be enough." "No," Daniel agreed. "There aren't. I know I have no right to ask anything of you. But I need to know what happens now. With the girls? With us?" Daniel pulled over then, turning to face her fully. "The girls need their mother. They've needed you every day for 7 years, and I've done my best, but I'm not you. Emma needs someone who understands her drive, her ambition. Ella needs someone who sees the world in the detailed way she does. They need you. And Lily? Lily is my daughter. But she loves your girls like sisters. She's chosen to be part of this complicated family we've created. So here's what I propose. Shared custody. You get an apartment nearby. The girls can choose where they want to be and when. We cooperate. We coexist. We do what's best for them. And you and I?" Daniel was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know, Ava. I loved you once. Part of me probably still does. But that love is tangled up with so much pain, so much anger. Maybe someday, but not now. Maybe not ever." When they arrived at the house, the girls rushed out, Emma and Ella crashing into their mother with 7 years of pent-up hugs. Lily hung back until Ava held out an arm to her too, pulling her into the embrace. "My girls," Ava whispered. "My 3 beautiful girls." 6 months later, life had found a new rhythm. Ava had a small apartment 10 minutes away, working as a bookkeeper for a local nonprofit. The twins spent weekdays with her, weekends with Daniel and Lily. Sometimes they all had dinner together, awkward affairs that were slowly becoming less awkward. On a spring evening, Daniel found a letter in his mailbox, Ava's handwriting on the envelope. Inside was a single page. "Daniel, I won't ask for forgiveness because I know I don't deserve it. But I need you to know that every day of my freedom is a gift I don't take lightly. When I see you with our daughters, and yes, they are ours now, all 3 of them, I see the man Sophia loved, the father you've become, the grace you've shown when you had every right to choose hatred. I don't hope for your forgiveness. I don't hope for your love. I only hope that someday, when you think of me, the pain lessens just a little, that when you see our girls laughing together, you feel more joy than sorrow. That you know Sophia would be proud of the man you are, the father you've become, the family you've saved. With endless gratitude and respect, Ava." Daniel stood in his kitchen, letter in hand, watching through the window as the 4 most important people in his world played in the backyard. The sun was setting, painting everything golden. It wasn't the life he'd planned. It wasn't the family he'd chosen. But it was real. And it was his. And maybe that was enough. The camera of life pulled back slowly, revealing the tableau 4 figures in the dying light. A makeshift family born of tragedy, but sustained by love. Daniel stepped outside, and Lily immediately grabbed his hand, pulling him into their circle. In the distance, a monarch butterfly landed on the fence, wings catching the last rays of sun before lifting off into the vast sky. Daniel thought of Sophia, of the life they'd lost. Then he looked at the faces around him and felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not the ending anyone would have chosen, but perhaps the ending they all needed. A family not perfect, but present. Not whole, but healing. Not planned, but possible.